We are now live. And as I tell all of our panelists, everybody can hear everything we're saying now. So not that we're saying anything bad, but welcome everyone. We're going to give everyone some time to log in like we always do. I am super excited and even more excited for this conversation. Not just because Lindsay put the cherry blossoms up, which is like my absolute favorite and makes me super happy, so I get to stare at them for an hour, but because we had an amazing prep call yesterday where we pretty much just laughed for an hour, catching up with everyone. But we have some really great things to share, and I'm so excited to hear how DC's doing and partnerships that have gone on to kind of move the needle forward for Washington, DC and our partners here over the last almost like a year and a half now, right? I mean, it's a year since we kind of did the first lockdown, but it feels like everyone is opening up, which is great, and I can't wait to hear more about it. I mean, heck, Rebecca opened a museum during the lockdown, so that's going to be pretty interesting to hear about. But Amy always, chatting in. I think she's been on every single one of these webinars for the last year and a little bit. So good to see everyone's names coming in. As always, chat in, tell us where you're coming from, so we can see your name too, as you're seeing all of us talk here. And if you do have any questions at all as we get going, if you could put them in the Q&A box, that's easier for us to find. I will find them in the chat box and we'll address whatever questions you have, but makes it a little bit easier to find it in Q&A. And Betsy just put her information up, so I always say thank you to Tour Operator Land and my partner in crime over the last year when we've been scheduling people to come on the webinars and just kind of interact and keep us all connected during this crazy time. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about what's going on with them, with the entities that they represent, and get to know them a little bit better. And I'm going to start with Lindsay and the cherry blossoms.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sherry. I'm really, really happy to be here today. And I see a lot of our regional and city partners chiming in. So nice to see all of you, and thank you for joining today. In case you don't know me, my name is Lindsay Hill. I'm the Senior Manager for Tourism Sales at Destination DC, the DMO for Washington, DC. And yes, we just did recently have our cherry blossoms at peak bloom. So wanted to carry that lovely image through to today. So I primarily handle our group market, motor coach, student to adult tour groups, but also have some my feelers out in Canada and the Australia New Zealand market as well. So that's do a quick update after our other partners have introduced themselves.
Perfect. So why don't we go to Mary, because you're not on mute. So I didn't see you on mute, so therefore you get to go next. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I am happy to be here. It's been over a year since I've had to do anything like this. I might be a little nervous today. My name is Mary Rinaldo. I am Regional Vice President for newly branded City Experiences. So maybe a lot of people on this call have not heard about that yet, but we have spent the last year reimagining all of our brands and pulling 25 different brands under one umbrella finally. So we're pretty excited about that. It's City Experiences, anchored by Hornblower, which is quite a diverse portfolio of land-based, water-based experiences, along with shore excursions and city guided tours. I represent the city cruises part of the brand, which is dining, sightseeing, charter vessels across the country, and I oversee the Mid-Atlantic area. So Baltimore, Washington, DC, Alexandria, Virginia, and Norfolk, Virginia. We have recently reopened in all of our ports here in the Mid-Atlantic and some others across the country, which is exciting. So I'm happy to be here today and happy to talk travel and experiences and hospitality. Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here, and I saw the announcement when the name change was announced and started reading through all of the entities that have come together over the last couple of years, and holy cow, There's a reason why it took a couple of years to pull everything together, because it's a really nice group of attractions and experiences that you have. So congratulations on that, Mary.
Really nice to be all one brand now. It was a little difficult to understand for us who worked here, so I can't imagine all of our partners like figured out the height there. So
well, I have no doubt that your team will get it out there for everyone to hear. So I love that. And Rebecca, new museum. Let's not just tackle a pandemic. Let's open something new during it.
Right. Yeah. Why not? What could go wrong? I'm Rebecca Roberts with Planet Word. Planet Word is a brand new museum of words and language in the historic Franklin School in downtown DC. That's it in my Zoom background. It's an 1869 schoolhouse. And my title here is Curator of Programming, which actually is not at all descriptive of what I do. I'm sort of, I manage all the public engagement. So programming, education, visitor services, group tours, private events, community engagement, all of that comes under my umbrella. And we opened, our grand opening was in October. We were able to be open for 5 weekends, and it was so great. I mean, there are advantages to soft openings. And then when the Smithsonian and the National Gallery and other cultural institutions around town started to close again around Thanksgiving, we joined that community effort, and we just reopened April 1st. So we are open Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays for now, but we're going to add capacity every hour, add days of the week to the point where we get to be a 7-day-a-week museum as always planned.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the opening. Soft openings are great. I worked for a theme park for years. We always had soft openings. You learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice not to have like 1,000 people and 36 performers and food trucks and bands, right? You know, there are some advantages to learning.
And now you're working back up to that. So that's good. Yeah.
Eventually.
Well, we are super glad you're here. Thank you so much. And I saw Tara Hippensteel's name come up on the chat. Congratulations on your new role. We are super happy for you, my friend. And it's good to see your name here. And last, but certainly not least, Kristen, what's going on with you?
Hi, I'm Kristen Desimone. I work as the Director of Marketing for Mars and Companies. We are in the office, as you can tell by my wonderful facial gear here. I did, however, bring my smile stick, so you'll know how I feel about things. Mars and Company is a wholesale group tour operator. We actually send tours all over the world. We've got a bunch of family of brands, soccertours.net, Go Student Tours, Go Performing, Go Sports Tours. We operate Accent Travel Network. But Mars, from Mars and Companies, is an acronym for Mid-Atlantic Receptive Services, which is where we started. And we have our roots here and our offices here in DC, and have been servicing the DC metropolitan area for decades. So it's our backyard. We love DC, and it's really the majority of our base here, and happy to be a part of the panel.
We are so thrilled you're here, and I'm going to age myself, but I know a lot of the people on this chat, so you're right there with me. One of my very first appointments at one of my very first American Bus Associations was with Mid-Atlantic Receptive Services. So you will always be that name to me, and I will try my hardest to say Mars and Company, but that's what I know you guys as.
Well,
so
we
thank
don't
you
mind.
so much for being here. And it's been really fun to watch how you guys have grown over the years and added all of these different divisions. So I'm sure that you're going to get lots of questions on all of them. But I'm really looking forward to your perspective from the different markets, you know, from sports versus performance. You know, I think that's really cool and can give everyone a really good look at a variety of markets that have been hopefully traveling. And have you been traveling this year so far, or at the end of last year?
Personally, I have a little, yes, personally. And we definitely have tours running now. So
Love
Very
it.
exciting,
Love
actually.
it. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so Lindsay, hit us with what's going on in DC. Give us a quick update on how things are there.
Yeah, and I'll just do a real brief rundown just as we dive into our questions, sort of where we are sitting. So we're definitely seeing the positive momentum moving in the right direction. It's very exciting that on May 1, we do know museums will be allowed to expand their occupancy to 50%. Theaters will be able to reopen at 25% occupancy. Weddings and meetings can resume at 25% capacity. And our sports teams have begun welcoming back live spectators, which is super fun. But the main message is that DC is definitely open. Our list of available attractions, tour companies, activities continue to grow, on a weekly basis. And for all the updates, we're constantly updating our website, washington.org, with all of the up-to-date information as soon as we hear it. So I just wanted to make sure, that's sort of the base of where we're having this conversation from.
No, well, and thank you for sharing that, because I think everyone on this panel and also on the call, I mean, we're scouring the information for who's opening and how they're opening, and and just so we can plan, we can see what our partners are doing. And I think Vegas announced some great things on openings and conventions coming in. So I appreciate that. And I know everyone appreciates how we are opening and how we are learning how to travel safely within everything going on right now.
Absolutely.
So that's super cool. So the number one question we always get, and I kind of asked it earlier, but what it was, are you seeing travelers? Are you seeing groups booking? Let's talk consumer sentiment. What's going on with consumer sentiment, and are you seeing some people, what are they asking for? When are they asking to travel? So I'm gonna go down to Mary first.
It's a loaded question, really.
I know, I'm sorry. I tend to do that. Yeah.
It's just all over the place. I will tell you that starting late March, when cherry blossom season typically kicks off, we opened our water taxis, and for those 3 weeks of the cherry blossom season, we were busy. We didn't have enough boats going for the water taxis. Now we're running at limited capacity, so that didn't help, but we saw people out there. We saw them wanting to get on the boats, wanting to be outside. We saw them walking around. I think it's changed a bit since cherry blossom season is over, but we know that it'll come back, after Memorial Day, like it always does. So, and then we see it in our dining boats too. There's pent up demand. We're taking calls. The phones are starting to ring. Probably the last 6 weeks, they started to ring a little bit more, which is natural with the weather change, but also I think people see restrictions changing and they don't quite understand them all. So they start calling and saying, I want to book a group of 200. I want to book a group of 100. And so I think, the hard part for us is managing their expectations and managing the ever-changing restrictions and anticipating when they're going to change. I want to book a wedding in July. What do you think it's going to be like? And, we're trying to, recall every step Mayor Bowser's taken in DC over the course of last year and trying to predict what we think her next move is going to be. But yeah, bottom line is people want to get out, they want to travel. Maybe their priorities have changed. It's no longer, I want the best food. It's, I want a really safe place that's, taking care of our guests. And, I think I see that all over DC. You go to anybody's website, that's our number one priority. We spent the last year, one, you want to make sure your crew is safe and all of your employees, but then your guests, you want to make sure it's visual. And I think we've done an awesome job. So, I think there's two things we're talking to our guests about. What are the restrictions? And what are you doing to keep us safe? But it's there. We just need to get open and lift those capacity restrictions, and I think we'll be okay.
I love that, and there is going to be pent up demand. I think we've all heard it, and that's been a consistent theme, over all of these conversations, is that we hear it and people want to travel. So it's getting that consistent information on when everyone is opening and what the rules are. And I say it every week, and I'll continue to say it for all of our operator friends that are on the call. Your DMOs are your number one stop, because they've been collecting this information diligently for the last, well, forever, but really for the last year. They have it all down. So I'm going to, Kristen, I'm going to ask you the same thing. You know, when it comes to what you're hearing from clients, are there, you handle so many markets. Are there specific markets that are more interested in travel right now than others?
Definitely the adults, and seniors in particular. They have no fear. They're out, they're ready to go. Especially now that many have been vaccinated, but even before, they were still planning. But we are seeing, I'd say, over the last 6 to 8 weeks, a significant rise in bookings. Bookings that I don't anticipate are going to cancel. There was a pretty steady continuation of bookings, but the probability of them running was questionable, and several have canceled as they just kind of got cold feet, or as their deposit time started to arrive. But the ones that we're getting right now, I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're seeing groups that are actually going to travel. People are stoked, very, very excited to travel. And we're seeing a couple different groups kind of pan out here. The groups that want to travel close to home and on shorter trips, say like a 2 days or two night, 3 day, or a 3 night, 4 day, and close to home, which makes DC, you know, prime area to travel to, since it's so close. You can hit DC within a driving distance of a single day. So it really opens it up, DC in particular. And then we're seeing other people that want to do special and unique. They haven't traveled in a long time. So they're looking for something that they haven't done before, almost as if it's the first time they've ever traveled. So it's pretty fun. We're definitely being creative, which I think everybody in this industry really quite enjoys. So it's exciting. Students, not so much. Their schedule is typically now, but because they're not all necessarily in, it's hard for them to plan. Although we did a virtual under our Go Performing, that was just a master class, and they did it online. And we had clinicians that came and really worked with the students and gave them, you know, tips and advice, and it was definitely like a little master class that they were able to do online, and it was fantastic. And we're going to continue that annually now.
That was going to be my next question. So you've uncovered a new product. That's what I heard. New product time, new product development. I love that. And something that you'll continue to do.
That's right.
And
yeah.
And Sherry, I was just going to pop in here as well from my DMO perspective on questions I've received. I, on a daily basis, am receiving emails and phone calls from student tour operators and adult operators asking, you know, what the status of certain attractions are and other things, because they still have groups ready to go for May, June, and the fall and beyond. We actually did have some student groups in the city in March and in April, and what I think is super great about those trips is that they got to, as Kristen mentioned, be very creative and start to look outside the box of what DC really has to offer. And so I've been really, you know, it's been really fun to be able to showcase some of those new ideas and products into these itineraries. So
I love that. So I want to focus on like those new ideas, right? And for so long, it's the itinerary that we've done, and people do what they know, and I want to see as much as I can in such a short period of time. But you know, what are those new experiences, and how do you partner, right? I mean, Road to Recovery, it's all about partnerships. It's all about how you recover together. How are we getting the word out? How are we creating those? I mean, you live there, so it's, I mean, is it a rebirth of Live Like a Local? or are we digging in deeper?
Mhm. Would you like me to start with
Sure,
that?
yeah.
'Cause I definitely
Anybody
want
can jump in.
yeah, I definitely want Rebecca to answer this question for sure. But you know, our marketing campaign has been for several years, discover the real DC. So we're always trying to pull out those neighborhood experiences and the things you may not have thought of. But this past year, you know, we've focused on a lot of inspirational pieces. So there's a series of 4-day virtual itineraries that touch on different subjects. We have a learning on location animated series, which today our 3rd episode on Earth Day was released.
Happy Earth Day, everybody.
Happy Earth Day.
Yeah.
Just to highlight all of the outdoor and nature focused parts of the city. And we've done quite a few virtual FAMs. So, you know, that's just kind of the tip of us just always constantly looking to the future of what is new. We have new memorials, we have new museums. The fall, we have events for anniversary events, very exciting with the Kennedy Center, for example. So those are all things that we're really trying to keep the energy up behind those future items.
And, you know, I will say that the museum community here in DC is really, really collaborative. We don't compete with each other. We know that more museums means more museum goers, right? We're competing with Netflix. We're not.
Good point.
So even though the Smithsonian is so massive, and I used to work there, I'm a proud Smithsonian supporter, and tends to kind of dictate the cultural movements here and also is a must-see for tourists. That's not, like, we don't resent that, right? The Smithsonian brings so many people to town that then come see our venues too. So it's not a question of, oh, you know, let's get people here instead of there. It's let's get people here in addition to there. So we're all always talking. And we also, especially during the pandemic, really collaborated in best practices of making visitors feel safe. We all shared it, you know, places like the Smithsonian that had never had ticketing before, right? So they couldn't really control their capacity. Everyone's on chat saying, oh my God, I hate this ticketing system. Do you have one you like? I completely stole from the Spy Museum the idea of handing out stylus to everybody to be able to use our touchscreens with a branded stylus. And then they go out into the world with a Planet Word stylus. Knock yourselves out. It's win-win, right? So we've all been innovating amongst ourselves. And then for the local audience too, the neighborhood Planet Word is in, Franklin Square, is pretty office worky, and the sidewalks tend to roll up here around 5:30. And so we are constantly talking to the hotels around here. How do we activate the green space? How do we, you know, send our folks to you to use your restaurant and you send your folks to here if they're staying overnight at your capacity? So it's really not a competitive atmosphere among venues and you know, tourist facing attractions here. We really do want all of us to succeed because it's a vital part of Washington, but we also really do want people to understand that non-federal Washington is a really creative, interesting place. And so when I say I want to, you know, collaborate with other people interested in words and language, I've got my pick, right? If I want to do hip hop or playwriting or endangered languages or French culture, whatever it is, it's all here in DC. And so we can just expand what we can offer to people by partnering with all of these incredibly culturally rich resources just right here in our own backyard.
I love that. And, you know, some of the best things, I mean, what's the saying, you know, imitation is the best form of flattery. But some of your best ideas come from your competitors.
Totally.
Sitting down with a competitor and working out, you know, to your point, you know, ticketing systems and letting people in on timed entries. And I mean,
and speaking of silver linings of, you know, this pandemic and virtual programming, so we've been able to partner with like-minded institutions outside of DC to offer virtual programs. We had a whole series with MoMath in New York about the intersection of math and language. And we couldn't have done that in our auditorium, right? We had the excuse to have their math nerds with our word nerds and did programs about cryptography and about, you know, the mathematics of word puzzles and things like that. They were super geeky and so much fun. And, you know, we couldn't have done that in an in-person venue.
And probably, you probably would have thought of it, but you wouldn't have implemented it this soon
Right.
to opening. That's something that would have been 5 years down the line. And,
Right.
and because of everything we went through, that's something that you were able to initiate right away.
Exactly.
I think that's the cool thing that's happened over the last year is there's been some sadness of losing a lot of our employees and things slowing down. But it's given everybody a time to step back, look at their business and, you know, collaborate with our partners in competition, but really make some changes and get creative, because when you're in the nonstop go, sometimes you just see yourself moving along and you haven't changed a thing in, you know, 10 years, you know, and we're part of that group. So having that opportunity over the last year has been a blessing, and, you know, I think we'll be better and stronger for it in the future. I think we all will be. You know,
Sure.
be included, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, how can we not be? And, you know, Lee has a great question that came in, and it's specifically about GBAC, like star accreditation. Are, you know, and really just any accreditations or any safety types of stamps that are out there. I know destinations and attractions have each gone in and done like their own safe and clean programs within their partnerships. Hotel brands have that. Are you finding, and Lindsay, I'm going to direct this at you, are you finding a lot of properties and museums and attractions have gone in and done some safety accreditations throughout this last year?
I'm not sure on exact safety accreditations. We as a city did not generate one of our own. But what we have done is within our membership listings and by sending out surveys, have asked specifically what protocols have been taken and making sure that is updated on our website for people to see very clearly.
I love that. And Kristen, the groups that are coming in and ask, you know, that are inquiring and wanting to book, is that a concern for them, or are they just ready to go?
You know, it varies. More and more, they're just ready to go. I think
I'm ready.
we all,
Yeah.
right, me too. We all know, wash your hands. We all know there's protocol everywhere you go. We know to wear a mask. We know to stay far away. You know, I know for us in the office here, every single person is at least one shot into their vaccination. So it's moving less from needing to tell everybody what all the protocols are everywhere they go, and more into just being positive and encouraging. Obviously, we want to travel responsibly, but they don't want to necessarily hear about it anymore, and they just want to be happy and excited. And so we're trying to be very positive and meet them where they're at, and we're certainly excited and positive. But for those that do ask, we absolutely have all of that information readily available.
And I will say that certainly anecdotally from the museum, that people who want to come want to be compliant because they want to keep things open. And so, you know, we were all worried before we reopened. We talked about giving staff like de-escalation training in case they had to confront a visitor who wouldn't wear a mask or something like that. And again, sharing information amongst ourselves. It was the Holocaust Museum was like, we got you on de-escalation, talk to us. But we didn't need to. People were just so happy to be out and about and eager to do whatever they needed to do to make sure that that was safe. And so I've just been delighted with how it just sort of feels like a communal good that people are willing to do what needs to be done to make this work for everybody.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a sentiment for sure that's changed over the course of the year as well. When we were all able to open last end of June, July, and August, it was a little bit more difficult at that time. We were new at the masks, we knew at everything, knew at social distancing. We closed down from September to April, and when we reopened, we were anticipating again the big mask fight, the big social distance fight, and it's been, you know, it's been complete 180 in that area, which has been wonderful. We can you can now focus on your product and your people and your employees instead of focusing on, being a mass security. That's what we were. So
Exactly. And I think that, I personally think that it just comes with people now understanding what they're dealing with. They've learned to live within this environment, and which we just didn't know a year ago. We didn't know exactly what we needed to do. Now we do, so the consumer sentiment is up and people want to travel, and I think everyone's willing to do what, to Rebecca's point, do what they need to do to get out there and experience. So Thomas, Tomas, I always call him, I'm sorry, Tomas, I call you Thomas and I always get it wrong. Tomas from Ray Royale has a good question for you, Lindsay. And it's really, how are you keeping receptives and tour operators updated on what hotels and attractions are opening? I mean, we're going to talk about challenges, right? I mean, real talk. We're going to talk about, hey, what are some of the biggest challenges we faced? And some of the biggest challenges we face are always who's open, who's not open, how do I keep all of that information together? So Tomas is interested in how you're getting that information out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we, again, we have a dedicated page on our website, Washington.org. If you go to the first little text box under the main picture of cherry blossoms, it says what's open now. But we also have Washington.org/DC Together, where we do actually keep a running list of what hotels are open, what, sort of restaurants are available, what those capacity limits are. Everything else is all right there, one-stop shop. We also do have a chart of the hotels. So anyone who is interested in having that list can email me and I can send that through. But we put out a quarterly newsletter. We have been doing virtual sales calls. I have been a part of trade shows, and my team has been a part of Brand USA's trade shows recently. So we are trying our best to get the word out as quickly as possible whenever we hear it, but really the best source 100% is Washington.org or emailing me directly.
I was going to throw that in, so I'm glad you threw that in. Lynn's always happy to answer questions.
I love it.
I've got you on speed dial.
Kristen does have me on speed dial 100%.
So as we're talking about challenges right now, what over the last year, what has been the most challenging thing that you've dealt with, besides the fact of not being open or not having groups coming in? I mean, what have you had to really focus on this last year to get ready for right now?
A lot. A lot.
Everything.
Yeah. It's the industry itself is it's like a big cruise ship. It's not something that necessarily spins on a dime. It takes a bit to maneuver and change direction. And so we all kind of had to take a moment and assess the situation, and not only do it once, but twice and 3 times. And we're still doing it today, and we'll continue to do it tomorrow. But trying to communicate, trying to stay ahead of the curves, trying to stay ahead on marketing. It was going to come back. We had no time frame, so we needed to stay ahead of it. We needed to be ready, taking the time to educate ourselves, educate our staff. We wanted to be sure to be a resource of education for our clients, for our partners, trying to keep in touch with who's where. We lost a lot of really good people, and it was very difficult. So who do you contact where? Now, what are the rules? That was tough. Communication in general was really tough. But like you said, the silver lining ended up being that forced creativity and the increase in partnerships. There's that saying, the divide and conquer, and we don't abide by that here. We're the combine and conquer, and that's really where this industry has kind of proved to be very resilient. And I think the best is still to come. But
I absolutely could not agree with you more. And I see a lot of people raising their hands for that one, agreeing with you as well. And I like combine and conquer. I'm going to use that because
absolutely.
I think it's also been nice to see what we're capable of.
Go ahead, Rebecca. I'm sorry.
No, I think it's been nice to see what we're capable of because like we're planners. Everyone on this plan, we like a good spreadsheet. Like we do depth better than speed, and especially in the museum world, we love a good anniversary. We'll plan it 3 years in advance, So I think the unpredictability of this has really rocked us all back on our heels a lot. In addition to all the personal stress and worrying about layoffs and all of that, like if we knew what we were dealing with, we'd plan for it. That's what we're good at. But the fact that the information changes so fast and we don't feel like we know all the variables to be able to plan ahead has really made us change a lot of things. I listed that long list of things I'm responsible for in the museum. We did not plan it that way. That is not how our org chart was set up, but we didn't want to staff up and then have to lay people off. Well, it turns out I can run all of those things at the same time. I'm looking forward to being able to hire staff to help me, but you push on through and, you do creative things with your budget and you make the most of partnerships. And if you don't have the money for like a huge marketing push, you collaborate with somebody who's already reaching the audience you want to reach and hope that you can offer them an audience that they are not reaching and just buddy up, So I think that it's been, of course, less than ideal. Did we wish we were opening with a big splash and, huge crowds? Of course. But it has been satisfying to learn that we can do it and to learn that we can be nimble and creative. And we're going to keep virtual programs long after we're able to have in-person programs. It's an asset that we didn't anticipate. And so, Kristen talked about a new product. I think that we're all pretty good now, a year in, at making the lemonade out of the lemons. And that's good to know about yourself and about your industry.
Yeah, I 100% agree. While there were challenges, it laid the groundwork for some really amazing opportunities. And, just really having the time, even, in a regular year, we're traveling to so many places and really being able to take a step back and relook at what we really want to focus on. And I mean, Kristen and Kate Scapetti and I have had a lot of fun looking at new products, new itineraries for the city, and we've had the time to do that. We've been able to, our membership team has done some free trials, and so we've gotten new people excited in what we do. So it's I think a lot of it has come up with some really fun things that we'll carry through.
I am so loving everything that I'm hearing. And I want to, because we touched a little bit on marketing and co-op, and I think Rebecca, you jumped in with that. Is that something that you guys have been actively doing, right? I mean, and are you actively marketing? Have you started doing that? We spent most of last year talking about inspirational versus marketing and how it just wasn't time, and people were afraid that they would offend people if they started marketing information. But I think collectively everyone said, hey, it's time. We need to get information out there. But their budget shortfalls have been a problem with that. So what types of marketing are out there right now? Is it mostly social? And Kristen, you can jump in with this too, because you're marketing to your clients. But I'm going to put you on the spot first, Rebecca, because you're the one that brought it up. So yeah, I'm going to go back to you.
So yeah, we obviously blew up our marketing budget. It feels like the kind of thing that if you can save someone's job, you blow up your marketing budget, right? So we sat down and we looked at different audience segments because we're not a children's museum. We've got a lot of appeal for different age groups, and we thought through like who should we best spend this money on, and we chose a couple of different targets, and purposely did not decide to target to young professionals and millennials, which are a big market here in Washington because, everyone comes to work on the Hill or whatever. And I thought from my own experience that we needed to wait until we had in-person events for that crowd and that just the museum experience. And so let's hold off. But that's who turned out to come in October. I think 20-somethings were desperate to get out of their apartments. And the thing about that crowd is they market to each other, right? So we did not go out and appeal to them, but one person posted a TikTok and 150,000 views later, right? So it has been really instructive actually to figure out who's reaching who. We didn't do the big metro station buyout we would have done if we had opened in normal times, but it's made us a lot more aware of the peer-to-peer marketing. And yes, collaboration with other institutions. When we started, we didn't really have much of a mailing list. We didn't even have that great a website. I didn't feel confident that if we did launch virtual programs, they would work or reach anybody. So we at first started partnering with people who had audiences that we wanted to know about the museum. So we partnered with a lifelong learning center in the suburbs that reaches a lot of active, engaged, educationally interested seniors. Those are like great museum goers eventually, and we partnered with a bunch of after school time groups to reach kids who were bored and not able to do their regular drama club or debate team or whatever. And that helped us build a list so that when we were ready to launch our own programming, it wasn't going out, tree falling in the forest. So it has been very non-traditional. You won't see a Planet Word bus sign this year. But it's really helped us figure out how to be strategic in other forums.
And I've heard that from DMOs as well. We have marketing webinars every other Wednesday. There'll be one next week. And one thing that I found really fascinating over the last year, and DMOs, I'm an ex-DMO, we've talked about it for years. How do you engage the community? What do you do with the community? And then you're focused on outside coming in rather than your own backyard. But I think this year, and Lindsay, I don't know if you agree, has caused, that DMO world to kind of look inward to exactly what you've been talking about as well, Rebecca, is that what can I do to engage the community and have travel just within your own backyard?
Yeah, we definitely had a short campaign where we encouraged people to, do a staycation and explore their own city. So, and, I would usually have a marketing budget to put some ads in the trade publications, and not this year. So had to get creative on how to pitch ideas so that we could get some free articles and stuff. So that was a new experience for me, but super fun to learn.
Those are the miscellaneous duties as required, which sounds like Rebecca's entire job description.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Other duties as assigned. Yes.
So we have some questions that came in that I want to make sure that we get to. And all of you being in the DC area, one of the questions is specifically about the Smithsonian opening to groups. I know you guys aren't with them, but have you heard anything about that? That it's the understanding of the person asking the question that they're still closed to groups. They also apologize if you answered it and they missed it, but they're wondering if they are open to groups, and if not, do you have any idea when they might be?
Yeah, I can take that one. So we unfortunately don't have an official timeline at this point on the Smithsonian's reopening. I think we're hopeful we will hear something in the near future. When it comes to groups, again, until they have made an announcement, I cannot say for certainty what that will look like. But in the fall, there was a group limitation of 6. So we'll see what they start with and how quickly it increases, but it's definitely something that we're, watching and working with them on.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Kind of along the same lines, it's a question on just if you've heard anything. We're all taking calls from potential clients and groups and wanting to come in. Travel's picking up again. Are you hearing anything about international travel? Have you fielded any of those questions on Anyone interested in coming in, and not only interested, but when that may be?
I guess this probably is to me as well.
Yeah, you take that, you go ahead.
If anyone else has heard anything, please jump in. I mean, I think we have to wait for the borders to open, right? So international travelers can come. I can say from what I've heard from my colleagues is that the UK is especially eager to get back to the US. So once it's an option, they will be coming. As I said, I also oversee Canada. So again, they are very eager to return to travel and return to DC, but we do need that border opened for that to occur. But I mean, I think the general consensus on an international front is everyone wants to get back to traveling, and we're all just waiting for those country protocols and those vaccinations to work in our favor.
I got my second shot this morning. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Excited about that. But I've heard the same thing about international. I think right now we're waiting on not so patiently to find out when borders are going to open. But I think it's very positive that countries are announcing their opening procedures. I think we've seen that a lot lately over the last couple of months. And that just gives people hope that it's coming soon. But certainly we're seeing that need and want to travel. And we do have a question from Michael, who works with farm clients specifically, but he's curious as if you have had groups coming in, are you considering, or would you consider asking those meeting clients if they would provide recommendations and referrals to other clients? So I'm guessing, are you grabbing referrals from clients that maybe you can utilize down the road with individuals coming in to want groups and using it? Michael, I'm probably messing up your question completely. So feel free to throw in the chat or put back up on the Q&A if I have butchered it. But anyone that's already done a meeting, would they be willing to provide feedback to potential new clients? I was going to say, I think that the DMOs do that. Mary, that might be a great question for you. You haven't had a lot of groups in the last year, but certainly prior to that, I'm sure you used a referral process with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's we haven't had too many recently. So, but yes, it's always part of our sales process. That's, could be the warmest lead we could get. We could provide referrals.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael just chatted in, a much easier way than I just asked the question. So thank you, Michael. He has a pharma client that wants to know if anybody else has done a meeting yet. So
perfect. Yeah, I would say, Michael, if you want to email me directly, I can connect you with our convention sales team, and they would be able to dive into that a little bit more in depth with you.
Perfect. Thank you, Lindsay. So Catherine has a question about vaccination priority. Specifically for student markets, they're not currently the priority for vaccinations. Do you think that's going to delay the student market coming back to DC? And that might be something good for Kristen to tackle?
Not that we've seen. If that is to change, we'll adjust as needed. But so far, no, that hasn't been a consideration that they've brought up at all. They're ready, they're booking.
I love it. Anytime I hear they're ready, they're booking, that makes me very, very happy. And so Lisa has a question specifically about restaurants and hotels and staffing. And I think we all have our non-traditional partnerships and our friends throughout the community. Has staffing been a problem as things start to open up again? Mary's shaking her head, probably on a personal level. Yes, that it's been a problem.
Yeah, I think I mean, I think you can read it all over the place. It's a nationwide, I would call it a crisis at this point. From California to New York, everywhere you go, I mean, we know a lot of our partners are they're shutting down sections or closing early because they don't have enough staff. And, you know, part of it is there's only limited hours and there's only, you know, limited people coming in. So we can't hire them all back. And, you know, I feel that a lot of it is about, I think a lot of people spent the last year outside of the hospitality industry saying, it's been great being home, being with my family, nights and weekends. And, you know, there's a lot of people shifting gears in careers and just looking for something else, looking for something more fulfilling. And then there's the trust aspect. There's I was laid off you know, just like that, I got a call and I was laid off, and it wasn't always the most personal call. It wasn't always, you know, there was none of us had it figured out. None of us had the best way to do it, but there's also that feeling of, how do I trust this again? How long am I going to be there? So we've heard it all, but you know, we don't need nearly as many people as we did before. You know, prime season right now, we'd be hiring just in DC Alexandria alone, close to 400 people. You know, we're less than half of that what we need, and you know, we're probably 30% to where we need to be. So it's definitely very difficult, and I think all our focus is now is, I don't think it's going to change, at least, you know, not in the short term, and in the long term, it's going to be a struggle. So our focus is now is, how do we adjust our product so we can, you know, still give a great experience with less employees to have to do it for us. We thought it was going to be more of a cost thing. We need less employees because we have to spend less money. And we've found out that we actually need to find a way to do it with less employees because we just don't have them. So we've definitely made some changes to our products to be able to still execute for our guests. But great question, definitely a problem.
And yeah, definitely a problem. And we heard Roger Dow was on a webinar several weeks ago with us and said the same thing. You know, that one of the biggest challenges he saw coming up in the future was getting everything fully staffed again. So Lisa, if you're looking for some specific stats, you can probably go to US Travel and to their website, and they probably have some great information on there for you. I told you guys this would go by quickly and that you would look up and I would be giving you like a 6-minute warning that we're getting ready to wrap up. And I feel like we just really got into some good meat and potatoes. I know, right? What? So, you know, I think the conversation has been amazing on how we've kind of changed tactics and stepped back and reevaluated how we're doing unique and different things. And some of the partnerships, Rebecca, for opening a museum during the pandemic have been amazing to me that we've heard about, and really cool and unique ideas. So what are things we need to think about in the future? What are some future considerations that that we should be looking towards for the rest of the year? So Lindsay, you go. You haven't talked in a hot second. So yeah.
You know, I'm looking forward to in the fall, hopefully and beyond, physical meetings or travel being able to resume. But, you know, I think we still have to consider that that's not going to happen for a bit. And so, you know, and even though when things return to normal, I think that the virtual aspect of client meetings will always remain a part of my strategy. So, you know, because I can't get everywhere in the country or everywhere in the world in a year. So, you know, in between those physical visits, being able to hop on a video call and really feel like I'm connecting with all of my clients all over the place. I'm definitely going to, you know, keep that going.
I think that's almost like a silver lining too. I mean, how many of us have tried to be everywhere in a year, and it's exhausting. And I think this last year has kind of taught us that there are different ways to do things. And who would have thought you would have been doing a virtual sales mission, right? Or virtual fam trips, but it is an option, and you can do that and stay engaged with your clients. I think that's great. Kristen, what do you think? I mean, what are some future considerations for the next year that you know, good or bad, that we need to be looking out for?
I think bad is probably behind us, knock on wood, or at least the worst. We're gonna just stay in front of the marketing, stay out in front, stay visible, stay educated. We're implementing new ideas. We've got ourselves 3 fam trips just this year. We've got one in August that is DC and Maryland. So, and then 2 more in the rest of the year. We've got a new Web of Mars series that we're doing. So we're going to keep the virtual thing. You're going to be able to reallocate where you're spending your budgets moving forward. So that's actually encouraging. We've learned to do a lot of marketing on $0, and we may keep a lot of that. And then we're in a better position to allocate those funds to something different. We're getting involved with 501c3s. Our partnerships are growing. We've always been really pro partner marketing, but we're going to amp it up and continue to amp it up and keep that stay in front of it, stay in front of the curve mentality, and just try to stay as educated as possible.
That's great. And that was going to be my follow-up for you as partner marketing, because everyone on this call is going to be asking how they can get involved in that. So I'm assuming they can reach out to you directly, and that there is opportunity for partnership marketing there.
Definitely.
Love it. Rebecca, what do you think? In future considerations moving into next year?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of things we just didn't do this year that we would normally have opened with. We didn't build a volunteer corps. We don't have interns. We haven't welcomed groups. We haven't welcomed in-person field trips. We have this really beautiful building with tons of workshop and auditorium space and event space, and we haven't been able to exploit any of that. And so we've got a whole list. We keep calling it day 2. Now day 2 is like a biblical, 10,000 years, but it's, we made a couple of strategic decisions about, like, we wouldn't build a volunteer corps until we had a rewarding experience for them. Same thing with interns. And I can't wait to do all of that stuff. That's one of the ways that museums can knit themselves into their community and become important beyond just the visitor experience. And it's vital that museums do that. And so there's a lot of mission-driven work that we really are looking forward to being able to do when we can welcome more people. Groups is absolutely one of them. I got to figure out where to park the motor coaches. There's just stuff we haven't had to deal with yet, but I look forward to taking it all on.
I guess you should call some of those hotels in your area. There's another partnership opportunity.
Exactly.
Figure out, where they're parking their coaches. And Mary, any future considerations, words to wisdom that you want to share with anyone?
Much the same as everybody else, but I think, for us, our focus, over the next years is, one, we need to get groups back. It's, makes up of 70+% of our business. So, I think understanding more than ever what people want. I think we always thought we knew, and obviously there's going to be an expectation change for people in the near future. But then I think long term, that, I hate to say it because I hate it, but the new normal, what does that look like? So, we're going to have to figure that out from our guests and from our employees. And I think that's what we'll be focused on now, to say, what's next, and we can't figure out what's next until we really know what people are expecting over the course of the next year or 2, 5. So that's it for us.
That's it. Like, that's all I have to do. But I will say, Robin Parker just came on here and said she sent people on 4 in-person conferences so far this year. So as a show producer, Robin Parker, thank you very much for sending your people out to events. I am really happy to hear that. And I miss seeing you in person, so I can't wait to see you in person as well. Thank you to our panelists for being on taking time out of your day to share with us some of the things that have gotten you through this last year and how you're really recovering and moving into the rest of next year. Hearing everyone's different strategies and hearing how they've developed that into action items like you ladies have done really gives everyone so many great ideas that they can apply to their own businesses to help them open up and do a little bit more as we finally move towards that light at the end of the tunnel, because I really feel it this year more than ever. I feel that it's happening. So I so appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time with us. Kristen, Rebecca, Lindsay, and Mary, you guys were a dream team. If you have any questions at all, they're more than happy to answer them for you. As always, tomorrow we'll have a follow-up email with their information in it and some key takeaways from our conversation this week. Or you can find a recording of this that you can share with your teams that may have missed it on our website, connecttravel.com/webinars. And yes, I have to do this to remember it's /. Or we have a YouTube channel, but the links will be in the email out to everyone. I appreciate you taking the time. We will be back next week with you know her, you love her, Visa from ATP. So we will have more information for you next week. So join us again, and everyone have a great weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.